The alien princess laughed at the human warrior. Then her mother commanded, "He's your father." The silver ships of the Zephyrian Empire hung in space like deadly flowers around Earth's moon. Princess Kirithel stood on the bridge of her command vessel, watching the final battle through the large viewing screen. Her purple skin glowed softly in the ship's blue light, and her forearms moved with grace as she gave orders to her crew. "The human base is almost finished," reported Commander Zeekter, his voice deep and serious. "They cannot hold much longer." Kirithel nodded, her large golden eyes fixed on the small lunar colony. Below, for 6 months, this tiny human outpost had somehow survived against the mighty Zephyrian fleet. It should have been impossible. The humans had old technology, few ships, and limited weapons, yet they kept fighting. "How many humans are left?" she asked. "Maybe 500, Zeekter replied. "But their leader still fights, the one they call Marcus Chen." At the mention of that name, Kirithel felt something strange in her chest. Marcus Chen, the human warrior who had caused so much trouble for the Empire. He had destroyed 3 Zephyrian cruisers using nothing but old human ships and clever tricks. He had rescued human prisoners from maximum security facilities. He had made the great Zephyrian military look foolish. "Bring him to me when you capture him," Kirithel ordered. "I want to see this famous human warrior." The battle continued for 2 more hours. The humans fought with desperate courage, but they were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Their last ship exploded in a bright flash of light. Their base fell silent. The great human resistance was finally over. Kirithel waited in her throne room as the prisoners were brought aboard. Most humans looked broken and defeated. They had fought well, but they knew they had lost. She had seen many conquered species before. They all looked the same in the end, tired, scared, and hopeless. Then the doors opened, and Marcus Chen walked in. Kirithel had expected to see a broken old man. Instead, she saw someone who walked with his head high and his shoulders straight. Marcus Chen was tall for a human, with gray hair and scars on his face. His clothes were torn and dirty from battle, but his eyes burned with a fire that had not died. He looked directly at her, unafraid. Most aliens cowered before Zephyrian royalty. Not this human. "Princess Kirithel," he said with a small bow. "I have heard about you." Kirithel found herself staring at him. There was something familiar about his face, something that made her feel uncomfortable. She pushed the feeling away and laughed. "You are the great Marcus Chen," she said, her voice full of amusement. "The legendary human warrior who has caused us so much trouble. You look like any other human to me." Her court laughed with her. The Zephyrian nobles enjoyed seeing the famous rebel brought low, but Marcus Chen did not look away. He studied her face with curious eyes. "You laugh easily for someone who lost 3 ships to 1 old human," he said calmly. The laughter stopped. Kirithel felt her face grow hot with anger. How dare this prisoner speak to her like that? She was about to order his immediate execution when she noticed something else. Marcus Chen was still staring at her, but now his expression had changed. He looked confused, almost sad. "Your eyes," he whispered. "They are the same color as—" "Silence," Kirithel commanded. "You will show respect to your betters, human." But Marcus Chen shook his head slowly. "Golden eyes. I have only seen eyes like that once before. 20 years ago." Before Kirithel could respond, the throne room doors burst open. Every Zephyrian in the room immediately dropped to their knees. Even Princess Kirithel bowed her head with respect. Empress Veltara entered the room like a storm. She was taller than her daughter, with skin that glowed like starlight and silver hair that flowed behind her like water. Her 6 arms moved with perfect grace, and her presence filled the entire room with power. The Empress walked past her kneeling subjects, without looking at them. Her eyes were fixed on Marcus Chen, who remained standing. He stared back at her with an expression that Kirithel had never seen before. Not fear, not anger, but something deeper and more painful. "Veltara," Marcus said softly. The Empress stopped, walking. For a moment, the most powerful being in the known galaxy looked almost human herself. Vulnerable, afraid. "Hello, Marcus," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Kirithel felt the world spinning around her. Her mother knew this human. The Empress of the Zephyrian Empire knew a human rebel by name. That was impossible. The Empress had never left the capital world except for official state visits. Mother, Kirithel asked, confusion clear in her voice. How do you know this human? The Empress looked at her daughter, then at Marcus Chen, then back at her daughter. Kirithel saw something in her mother's eyes that she had never seen before. Guilt. 20 years ago, the Empress said slowly, I was sent on a diplomatic mission to establish first contact with the human homeworld. I was young then, just a crown princess learning about the galaxy. Kirithel's heart began to beat faster. She had heard this story before, but always briefly. Her mother never liked to talk about the early days of human contact. The humans were different from what we expected, the Empress continued. They were not like other species we had conquered. They were curious, creative, and surprisingly brave. Their leader assigned a young guard to protect me during my visit. The Empress gestured toward Marcus Chen. That guard was Marcus Chen. The throne room was completely silent. Even the usual hum of the ship's engines seemed to have stopped. Kirithel stared at Marcus Chen, trying to understand what her mother was telling her. We spent months together. The Empress said, Marcus showed me things about humans that no Zephyrian had ever seen. Their art, their music, their way of thinking. And I fell in love with him. Kirithel felt like she had been hit by a plasma cannon. Her mother, in love with a human? That was impossible. Zephyrians did not form emotional attachments to other species. Marcus Chen stepped forward. Veltara, please, don't do this, not here. But the Empress raised one of her hands to stop him. She deserves to know the truth. She has always deserved to know. The Empress turned to face her daughter directly. When she spoke, her voice was strong and clear, carrying across the entire throne room. Marcus Chen is not just a human rebel, Kirithel. He is not just a warrior who has fought against our empire. The Empress paused, and Kirithel saw tears in her mother's eyes. He is your father. The words hit Kirithel like a physical blow. She stumbled backward, her forearms reaching for support. Her father. This human was her father. But that was impossible. She was pure Zephyrian royalty. She had always been told that her father was a noble who died in battle before she was born. No, she whispered, that cannot be true. But even as she spoke, she knew it was the familiar feeling when she looked at Marcus Chen. Her strange ability to think in ways that confused other Zephyrians. Her unusual empathy for other species. It all made sense now. Marcus Chen looked at her with eyes full of pain and wonder. My daughter, he said softly. You are my daughter. Princess Kirithel, heir to the Zephyrian Empire, looked at the human warrior who had been her enemy just moments before. Her father. Her world had just changed forever. The throne room remained silent for long minutes after the Empress spoke those shocking words. Princess Kirithel sat on the floor where she had fallen, staring at Marcus Chen with wide golden eyes. Her forearms trembled as she tried to understand what her mother had just told her. Guards, leave us, the Empress commanded. All of you, now. The Zephyrian soldiers and nobles quickly left the room, their faces showing confusion and fear. They had just witnessed the greatest scandal in the Empire's history. When the doors closed, only 3 people remained in the vast throne room. Tell me, Kirithel whispered, her voice barely audible. Tell me everything. The Empress walked to the large window that showed the stars beyond. Her silver hair seemed to glow in the starlight. As she began to speak, 20 years ago, I was not the Empress, she said. I was Crown Princess Veltara, first daughter of Emperor Thakran. My father decided that the Zephyrian Empire needed to expand beyond our current borders. We had conquered many worlds, but we had never encountered a species quite like the humans. Marcus Chen remained standing, but his posture had changed. He no longer looked like a defiant prisoner. Instead, he looked like a man remembering painful memories. The humans were different from other species we had met, the Empress continued. They were not as advanced as us in technology, but they had something we had never seen before. They were creative in ways that surprised us when we first arrived at their homeworld. They did not immediately surrender like most species. Instead, they tried to communicate. Kirithel found her voice. But I was told that humans were primitive, that they were barely intelligent. That is what we wanted our people to believe. The Empress replied sadly. The truth was much more complicated. Humans were not primitive. They were simply different. Their technology was different. Their thinking was different. Their entire way of life was different. Marcus Chen stepped forward. Your mother arrived on Earth with a full diplomatic mission. She was supposed to study human culture and decide whether we were worth keeping as slaves, or whether we should be eliminated entirely. I was arrogant then, the Empress admitted. I thought I was visiting another conquered world. I expected to find simple creatures who would bow before Zephyrian superiority. Instead, I found a species that challenged everything I believed about the galaxy. The Empress turned from the window to face her daughter. The human government assigned Marcus to be my personal guard during my stay. He was young then, maybe 25 years old. He was a soldier, but he was also educated. He knew about art, about history, about science. He showed me things about human culture that I had never imagined. Marcus Chen's eyes grew distant as he remembered. She was supposed to stay for 1 month. Her visit lasted 6 months, every day. She asked more questions about how humans lived, how they thought, how they solved problems. And every day, I fell more in love with their way of thinking, the Empress said. Humans did not just accept what they were told. They asked questions. They experimented. They tried new things even when they might fail. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Kirithel watched her parents as they spoke. She could see the pain in both their faces. But also something else, even after 20 years, even after everything that had happened. They still cared about each other. What happened next? She asked. Marcus showed me a human custom-called music, the Empress said, almost smiling. Zephyrians had never developed music the way humans did. We had ceremonial sounds, but nothing like human songs. The first time I heard Marcus play his guitar, I cried. I had never heard anything so beautiful. Marcus Chen reached into his torn jacket and pulled out a small, damaged device. I still carry it, he said softly, even through all the battles, all the years of fighting. I kept it with me. We spent months together, the Empress continued. Marcus taught me about human emotions, about their capacity for love and sacrifice. I taught him about Zephyrian science and technology. We learned from each other in ways that neither of our species had ever experienced before. And then Kirithel asked, though she was beginning to understand. Then we fell in love, Marcus said simply. It was not supposed to happen. She was a princess from an advanced civilization. I was just a human soldier. But love does not care about such things. The Empress walked to where Marcus stood. For a moment, they looked at each other with the same expression they must have shared 20 years ago. When I discovered I was carrying a child, the Empress said, we both knew that everything would change. A half-human child born to Zephyrian royalty was impossible. It would cause civil war in the Empire. It would destroy both our peoples. So we made a plan, Marcus continued. Viltara would return to her people and tell them that the father was a Zephyrian noble who died in battle. I would remain on Earth and pretend that she meant nothing to me. We would both sacrifice our happiness to protect our child. Kirithel felt tears running down her face. But why did you become a warrior? Why did you fight against the Empire? Marcus Chen's expression hardened. Because 5 years after you were born, the Empire returned to Earth. This time, they did not come for diplomacy. They came for conquest. They began enslaving my people, destroying our cities, turning humans into workers for Zephyrian factories. I tried to stop it. The Empress said quickly. When I became Empress after my father's death, I tried to change our policies toward humans. But the military leaders and the noble houses were too powerful. They wanted Earth's resources and human labor. So I became what I needed to become, Marcus said. I studied every piece of Zephyrian technology I could find. I learned your military tactics, your weapons, your weaknesses. I became a warrior because I had to protect my people from the Empire. That had taken my family away from me. Kirthel stood up slowly. All these years, I thought I was strange, because I could think differently from other Zephyrians. I could solve problems that confused our best scientists. I could understand other species in ways that made my teachers uncomfortable. You have the best of both worlds, Marcus said with pride. You have your mother's intelligence and technological knowledge, combined with human creativity and adaptability. You are what both our species could become if we worked together instead of fighting. The Empress nodded. You are proof that humans and Zephyrians are not so different. You are proof that cooperation is possible. But now what? Kirthel asked. The Empire will never accept this when they learn that their princess is half human. They will call for your execution, Mother. They will try to remove me from succession. I know. The Empress said sadly. That is why I have kept the secret for 20 years. That is why I have watched from a distance as Marcus fought against our forces, knowing that I could not help him without revealing the truth. Marcus Chen looked at his daughter with determination. Then maybe it is time to stop hiding. Maybe. It is time to show both our peoples that there is a better way. What do you mean? Kirthel asked. I mean that you are not just a princess or just a human's daughter, Marcus said. You are a bridge between two worlds. You are proof that our species can be stronger together than apart. Maybe it is time to stop this war and start building something new. The Empress looked at both of them. It will not be easy. There will be those who want to destroy us for what we represent. Then we will face them together, Kirthel said, her voice growing stronger. As a family, as proof that love is stronger than hatred. For the first time in 20 years, Marcus Chen and Empress Veltara smiled at the same time. Their daughter stood between them, no longer just a Zephyrian princess, but something entirely new. Something that could change the galaxy forever. 3 days after the shocking revelation in the throne room, Princess Kirthel found herself walking through the prison levels of her ship. The guards bowed as she passed, but she barely noticed them. Her mind was still spinning from learning that Marcus Chen was her father. She stopped outside a holding cell where Marcus sat on a simple metal bench. He looked up when she approached, and she saw her own golden eyes reflected in his face. May I come in? She asked quietly. Marcus nodded, and Kirthel opened the cell door. She entered and sat across from him. Her forearms folded nervously. I have been thinking about what you said, she began, about humans being different, about how you have fought against our empire for so long with inferior technology. And what have you concluded? Marcus asked. I want to understand, Kirthel said. I want to know how you have survived against us, how you have won battles that should have been impossible. Marcus leaned forward. Are you asking as a Zephyrian princess, or as my daughter? I am asking as someone who needs to know the truth, she replied. Marcus stood and walked to the small window in his cell. Outside, Zephyrian ships moved in perfect formation through space, their movements precise and predictable. Look at your fleet, he said. What do you see? Kirthel joined him at the window. I see the most advanced military force in the galaxy. Our ships are faster, stronger, and better armed than anything humans have ever built. You are right, Marcus agreed. Your technology is superior. Your weapons are more powerful. Your shields are stronger. By every measure, the Zephyrian Empire should have conquered humanity in a matter of days. Then why did you survive for 20 years? Marcus smiled sadly. Because you are thinking like a Zephyrian. You see problems and you apply the same solutions that have worked for thousands of years. You have procedures for everything, rules for every situation, and protocols that never change. Those systems have conquered 100 worlds, Kirthel said defensively. Yes, they have, Marcus agreed. But they have conquered species that think like Zephyrians. Species that respond to superior force by surrendering. Species that fight the same way in every battle. He turned to face her directly. Humans are different. We do not just accept that something is impossible because it has never been done before. We ask what if and why not and how can we do this better? Give me an example. Kirthel said. Marcus activated a small display screen on the wall. Do you remember the Battle of Titan Station? Your forces surrounded our base with 50 ships. We had only 3 old fighters and a cargo transport. According to Zephyrian military doctrine, we should have surrendered immediately. But you destroyed our command ship and escaped, Kirathel said. Our military analysts still cannot explain how you did it, because they are trying to understand it using Zephyrian logic. Marcus explained. They assume we had secret weapons or hidden ships. They cannot imagine that we won using creativity instead of firepower. He manipulated the display to show a tactical diagram. Your command ship was at the center of the formation, protected by layers of smaller vessels, standard. Zephyrian tactics would require us to fight through each layer, which was impossible with only 3 fighters. So what did you do instead? We asked ourselves, what if we did not fight the ships at all? What if we found a completely different way to reach our target? Marcus smiled. We loaded our cargo transport with scrap metal and set it on a collision course with your fleet, while your ships were busy destroying what they thought was a desperate suicide attack. Our 3 fighters hid in the debris field. Kirathel stared at the diagram. You used our own defensive fire as cover, exactly, while your gunners were shooting at metal scraps. We flew through the chaos and attached explosive charges to your command ship's hull. We were gone before anyone realized what had happened. That is, Kirathel paused, searching for words. That is completely against all military logic, which is exactly why it worked, Marcus said. Zephyrian military doctrine does not account for enemies who think outside established patterns. Your admirals trained to fight other Zephyrians, not humans. Kirathel felt a strange excitement building in her chest. Show me another example. Marcus called up another battle display. The defense of New Geneva, your forces had surrounded the city with energy barriers that blocked all conventional weapons. The human population was trapped inside with no hope of escape. I remember that battle. Kirathel said. Our forces were preparing to move in and capture the survivors when something went wrong. With our barriers, nothing went wrong, Marcus said. We simply used them differently than you expected. Instead of trying to break through the barriers, we turned them into weapons. How? We studied the frequency patterns of your energy fields and discovered that they would resonate with specific sound waves. So we gathered every musical instrument, every speaker, every device that could produce sound in the entire city. Kirathel's eyes widened. You created a sonic weapon using human music? We created a resonance cascade that turned your own barrier energy back on itself, Marcus explained. The barriers collapsed, and the feedback damaged your ship's power systems. We used human creativity and your own technology to defeat you. That should not be possible. Kirathel whispered. According to Zephyrian science, it is not possible, Marcus agreed. But humans do not always follow the rules of what should be possible. We experiment. We try new things. We learn from failure and try again. Kirathel began to pace around the small cell, her mind racing. This is why I have always been different from other Zephyrians. This is why I could solve problems that confused our best scientists. You have human creativity combined with Zephyrian knowledge, Marcus said proudly. You can see solutions that neither species would find on their own. But if humans are so adaptable, why have you not built better ships? Why have you not developed more advanced weapons? Marcus sat back down on his bench. Because we have been too busy surviving. For 20 years, we have had to focus on immediate problems, how to fight today's battle, how to save today's lives. We have not had time to develop long-term solutions. What would happen if humans had access to Zephyrian technology? Kirathel asked. I do not know, Marcus admitted, but I suspect it would change everything. Imagine human creativity powered by Zephyrian science. Imagine what we could build together instead of destroying each other. Kirathel stopped pacing and looked at her father. You are talking about more than just military tactics. You are talking about a completely different way of thinking. I'm talking about the future, Marcus said. Your mother and I created something new when we fell in love. We created you, a bridge between two species. You represent what both our peoples could become if we stopped fighting. and started working together. But the Empire will never accept that, Carathel said. They see humans as inferior beings suitable only for slavery. Then maybe it is time to show them they are wrong, Marcus said. Maybe it is time to demonstrate that humans and Zephyrians are stronger together than apart. Before Carathel could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship, red lights flashed, and she could hear the sound of running feet in the corridors outside. What is happening? Marcus asked. Carathel activated a communication device. On her arm, bridge, report. Princess, we have a problem, came the reply. Admiral Vexner S. Fleet has arrived with orders from the High Council. They are demanding that you surrender the human prisoner immediately. On what authority? Carathel asked. They say the High Council has declared him too dangerous to remain alive. They have orders to execute him within the hour. Carathel felt her blood turn cold. The High Council had discovered the truth. Someone had reported what happened in the throne room, and now they were moving to eliminate Marcus before the scandal could spread. What do we do? Marcus asked quietly. Carathel looked at her father, then at the alarms flashing around them. For the first time in her life, she had to make a choice between her duty to the Empire and her loyalty to her family. We do what humans do best, she said with determination. We adapt. We find a solution that no one expects, and we prove that. Love is stronger than fear. The real battle was about to begin. Admiral Vexner's massive warship appeared on the viewing screen, like a dark moon blocking out the stars. Princess Carathel stood on the bridge of her vessel, watching as 36 Zephyrian battleships surrounded her small fleet, the Admiral's voice crackled through the communication system, cold and commanding. Princess Carathel, by order of the High Council, you will surrender the human prisoner Marcus Chen immediately. He is to be executed for crimes against the Empire. Carathel felt her hands trembling, but she kept her voice steady. Admiral, I am conducting an interrogation of this prisoner. He has valuable information about human military tactics. The interrogation is over, Vexner replied. The Council has learned of your inappropriate emotional attachment to this human. You are no longer fit to handle this situation. On the bridge around her, Carathel's crew exchanged worried glances. They had served under her for 3 years and respected her leadership, but they were also loyal to the Empire. She could see the conflict in their eyes. What inappropriate attachment? Carathel asked, though she already knew the answer. Do not play games with me, Princess. We know that your mother has revealed the truth about your parentage. We know that this human is your father. The bridge fell silent, even though her closest officers had suspected something after the events in the throne room. Hearing it confirmed was still shocking. The High Council has decided that this scandal must be contained. Vexner continued, the human dies today. Your mother will be placed under house arrest until the Council decides her fate. And you will be removed from the line of succession. Carathel felt anger rising in her chest. You cannot do this. I am the rightful heir to the throne. You are a half-breed abomination. Vexner said with disgust, the Empire cannot be ruled by someone with inferior human blood. Admiral Zekimer will take command of your fleet. You will return to the capital world as a prisoner. Through the communication system, Carathel heard the sound of transport ships launching from Vexner's fleet. Within minutes, armed soldiers would board her ship and take control. Princess, whispered Commander Zeekter, her second in command. What are your orders? Carathel looked around the bridge at her crew. These Zephyrians had followed her into battle many times. They trusted her judgment and her leadership. But would they follow her now that they knew the truth about her heritage? I need to speak with my prisoner, she said quietly. Maintain position until I return. She hurried down to the prison level, where Marcus was waiting for her. The alarms were still blaring, and he could hear the sounds of approaching ships through the hull. They are coming for you, Carathel said as she entered his cell. I know, Marcus replied calmly. And what will you do? I do not know, she admitted. If I surrender you, they will execute you immediately. If I resist, they will brand me a traitor and attack my ship. Marcus stood and placed his hands on her shoulders. Then we need to find a third option. What would a human do in this situation? A human would. Kirithel paused, thinking. A human would not accept that there are only two choices. A human would create a new possibility. Exactly, Marcus said with a smile. So what new possibility can we create? Kirithel's mind began to race. She thought about everything Marcus had taught her about human tactical thinking, about looking beyond obvious solutions, about using creativity instead of brute force. The transport ships, she said suddenly, they are not expecting resistance. They think I will surrender peacefully, and will you? No, Kirithel said, her voice growing stronger. I will not let them execute my father. I will not let them destroy my family. She activated her communication device. Commander Ziegler, I need you to do something that will be considered treason. Princess. Ziegler's voice was hesitant. I need you to trust me, Kirithel said. I need you to believe that there's more to this war than what the High Council has told us. Will you follow me? There was a long pause. Then Ziegler's voice came back, firm and determined. I have served under you for 3 years. Princess, you have never led us astray. If you say there's another way, I will follow you. Thank you. Old friend, Kirithel said. Now listen carefully. When the transport ships dock with us, I want you to lock down all the airlocks except for docking bay 3. Let them think we are surrendering, and then we show them what happens when human creativity meets Zephyrian technology. Kirithel turned to Marcus. I need you to do something for me. I need you to contact any human resistance fighters who might be listening. Tell them that Princess Kirithel of the Zephyrian Empire is ready to fight alongside them. You are sure about this? Marcus asked. Once you do this, there is no going back. You will be considered a traitor by your own people. Some of my people, Kirithel corrected, but not all of them. There are others who think like I do. Others who believe that the Empire's way is not the only way. She helped Marcus access the ship's communication system. Within minutes, he was broadcasting unencrypted human frequencies, calling for any resistance fighters in the area to come to their aid. Meanwhile, Kirithel returned to the bridge. The Zephyrian transport ships were docking with her vessel, filled with soldiers coming to arrest her and execute her father. Are you ready? She asked her crew. They nodded, though she could see fear in their eyes. They were about to commit an act that would change their lives forever. Initiate the plan, she ordered. The transport ships docked successfully in Bay 3. 50 armed soldiers entered the ship, expecting to find a surrendering princess and a helpless prisoner. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a sealed compartment, as emergency force fields activated around them. What is the meaning of this? Admiral Vexner demanded over the communication system. I am sorry, Admiral, Kirithel replied, but I cannot allow you to execute an innocent man. Innocent. He is a human rebel. He is my father, and he is fighting for the freedom of his people, just as any Zephyrian would fight for ours. On the viewing screen, Kirithel watched as Vexner's fleet began to move into attack position. Her small group of ships was outnumbered 10-1. Princess, Ziegler reported. I am detecting human ships approaching. 3 light cruisers. And a dozen fighters? Only 15 ships? Kirithel said. Against 36 Zephyrian battleships, the humans are requesting permission to dock. Ziegler continued. They say they are here to help. Kirithel smiled. Let them aboard. It is time to show the Empire what humans and Zephyrians can accomplish together. The human ships docked quickly, and their crews boarded Kirithel's vessel. She met them in the main hangar, along with Marcus. To her surprise, the human commander was a woman about her own age, with short brown hair and determined eyes. I am Captain Sarah Chen, the woman said. Marcus is my uncle. When we heard his message, we came as quickly as we could. I am Princess Kirithel, she replied, and I am honored to meet you, cousin. Sarah smiled. Uncle Marcus told us about you. He said you were the future of both our species. That remains to be seen, Kirithel said. Right now, we face impossible odds. How do you suggest we defeat 36 warships with what we have? The same way humans have always defeated superior forces, Sarah replied. We work together. We use our minds instead of just our weapons. And we never give up. Marcus joined them, his face grim but determined. The Empire expects us to either surrender or die fighting. They do not expect us to win. Then let us give them a surprise they will never forget, Carethel said, outside. Admiral Vexner's fleet was moving into final attack position. In a few minutes, the battle would begin. But for the first time in the war between humans and Zephyrians, the two species would fight side by side. All ships, prepare for battle, Carethel announced to her combined fleet. Today, we prove that unity is stronger than hatred. Today, we show the galaxy that love conquers fear. The final battle was about to begin, and the fate of both species hung in the balance. The space around Earth's moon erupted into chaos as Admiral Vexner's fleet opened fire. Brilliant beams of energy lanced through the darkness, striking the shields of Princess Carethel's small combined fleet. The princess stood on her bridge, watching as her Zephyrian and human crews worked side by side for the first time. In 20 years of war, shields holding at 60%, reported Commander Zeekter. But we cannot take much more of this punishment. Human fighters, begin evasive pattern 7. Captain Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the communication system. Zephyrian cruisers, focus your fire on their command ship's weapon arrays. Carethel watched in amazement as the human and Zephyrian ships moved together in perfect coordination. The humans provided speed and unpredictability, while the Zephyrians offered heavy firepower and strong shields. It was a combination that neither Admiral Vexner nor his tactical computers had expected. This is impossible. Vexner's angry voice echoed across all channels. How are they coordinating so effectively? Marcus Chen stood beside his daughter on the bridge, monitoring the battle displays. Because they are not following standard doctrine from either species, he explained to the confused admiral. They are creating something entirely new. Silence. Human, Vexner roared, your tricks will not save you. I have 36 ships against your pathetic 15. Simple mathematics will determine this battle. Mathematics can be wrong when you do not account for all the variables. Carethel replied calmly, and you have forgotten the most important variable of all, which is hope, she said simply. My people fight because they have hope for a better future. Your people fight because they are afraid of change, as if to prove her point. One of Vexner's ships suddenly stopped firing. Then another, and another. What is happening? Vexner demanded of his fleet. Admiral, came a nervous voice from one of his captains. Some of our crews are refusing to fire on Princess Carethel's ships. They say they do not want to kill their own princess. Carethel felt her heart soar. Open a channel to all ships in the area, she ordered. When the channel opened, she spoke with the voice of someone who truly believed in what she was saying. Citizens of the Zephyrian Empire, I am Princess Carethel, your rightful heir. I stand here today not as a traitor, but as someone who sees a better future for our people. You are a half-breed, Vexner interrupted. You have no right to speak for the Empire. I have every right, Carethel replied firmly. I am proof that Zephyrians and humans can create something beautiful together. I am proof that our species are stronger when we work as allies instead of enemies. More ships in Vexner's fleet stopped firing. Their crews were listening to their princess, and many of them were beginning to question what they had been told about humans. Look around you, Carethel continued. See how human and Zephyrian crews fight together. See how they protect each other, help each other, learn from each other. This is what our future could be. Enough of this nonsense, Vexner shouted. He activated his ship's most powerful weapons and aimed them directly at Carethel's vessel. If my fleet will not destroy you, then I will do it myself. The massive energy beam that erupted from Vexner's flagship was powerful enough to destroy a small moon. It streaked through space toward Carethel's ship, and for a moment, it seemed that nothing could stop it. Then something extraordinary happened. Captain Sarah Chen's human fighter, moving faster than any Zephyrian ship, intercepted the beam with its shields. The small ship was instantly vaporized, but the sacrifice bought precious seconds. In those seconds, 3 Zephyrian cruisers from Vexner's own fleet moved between their admiral and the princess. We will not allow you to harm our princess, declared Captain Merton, one of Vexner's own officers. She speaks the truth. This war has gone on long enough. Traitors! Vexner screamed. All of you are traitors. No, said another voice over the communication system. It was Empress Veltara, speaking from the capital world. You are the traitor, Vexner. You have forgotten what the Empire is supposed to represent. On the main viewing screen, the image of the Empress appeared. She looked older than when Kirithel had last seen her, but her voice carried the full authority of her position. Citizens of the Empire, the Empress said, I speak to you now as your Empress and as a mother. 20 years ago, I fell in love with a human named Marcus Chen. Together, we created a daughter who represents the best of both our species. Gasps echoed across multiple ship channels, as crews throughout the fleet heard their Empress confirm what many had only suspected. I kept the secret for 20 years because I was afraid. The Empress continued, afraid of what you would think, afraid of how you would react. But I see now that my fear has allowed hatred to grow where love should have flourished. My daughter, Princess Kirithel, is not an abomination. She is a miracle. She shows us that Zephyrians and humans are not enemies. We are potential partners in building a better galaxy. Admiral Vexner ship fired again. But this time, most of his fleet refused to follow his orders. Instead, they turned their weapons on their own admiral. This is mutiny, Vexner cried. This is justice, replied Captain Merton. Stand down, Admiral. Your war is over. Faced with rebellion from his own fleet, Vexner had no choice but to surrender. His ship was quickly surrounded and boarded by loyal Zephyrian forces. As the immediate danger passed, Kirithel found herself standing in the center of her bridge, surrounded by both human and Zephyrian officers. They looked at her with respect and hope, waiting to hear what she would say. Today marks the beginning of a new era, she announced, not just for humans and Zephyrians, but for all species in the galaxy. We have proven that differences in biology, technology, and culture do not have to mean conflict. Marcus Chen stepped forward and placed his hand on his daughter's shoulder. You have done something that I never thought possible. You have brought peace between our peoples. We have brought peace, Kirithel corrected. All of us, working together, humans, Zephyrians, and everyone who believes in a better future. Over the following days, the news of the battle spread throughout both human and Zephyrian territories. Some celebrated the end of the war, while others protested the alliance. But slowly, as more people saw the benefits of cooperation over conflict, acceptance began to grow. Princess Kirithel was formally recognized as the heir to the Zephyrian throne, with the understanding that she would rule over an empire transformed. No longer would it be a force for conquest and domination. Instead, it would become a coalition of species working together for mutual benefit. Marcus Chen was appointed as the first human ambassador to the Zephyrian Empire, while Captain Sarah Chen became the commander of the first mixed species fleet. The technologies and knowledge of both civilizations were shared freely, leading to advances that neither could have achieved alone. Years later, when historians wrote about this period, they would call it the Great Alliance. They would write about the day when a human warrior and an alien princess proved that love truly could conquer hatred. But for those who lived through it, it was simply the day when the species decided to stop fighting and start building something beautiful together, standing on the observation deck of her flagship, now peacefully orbiting Earth. Princess Kirithel watched human and Zephyrian children playing together in the station's recreational areas. They laughed and learned from each other, unaware that their friendship had once been considered impossible. What are you thinking about? Marcus asked, joining her at the window. I am thinking about the future, she replied, about all the wonderful things our species will accomplish together. Marcus smiled and put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. The future looks very bright indeed. And in the starlight streaming through the observation window, both human and Zephyrian, father and daughter, they watched as the civilizations began their journey toward a better tomorrow.